All right. I'd like to welcome you to the regular session of the Zoning Advisory Commission for February 4th, 2026. With that, I'll call the meeting to order and ask if we're in compliance with the Iowa Open Meetings rules.
Yes, we are in compliance.
All right. Would you please call the roll?
Christ,
Aye, here.
Froistad,
Here.
Lorman,
Here.
Mulligan is excused, Norton,
Yeah.
Russell,
Sorry.
Here.
Zaccaro.
Here.
All right. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from December 3rd, 2025. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from December 3rd, 2025. I'll second.
Christ,
Aye.
Froistad,
Aye.
Lorman,
Aye.
Norton,
Aye.
Zaccaro,
Aye.
Russell.
Aye. All right, next on the agenda are three action items. I'm just going to go quickly through the procedure that we're going to follow for those. First, the applicant makes a presentation, including stating their name and address. Then there's a staff report and discussion by the commission. And we'll make a motion and a second with additional discussion if necessary, and then we'll call the roll. With that, we'll open it up to the first action item, which is a major subdivision with the applicant being Ron White. The location is 15,000 North Cascade Road, the final plat of Genesis subdivision. Mr. White, would you like to make a presentation?
Good evening. Dave Schneider, Schneider Land Surveying, 906 First Street North, Farley, Iowa. I'm here representing Ron White and the two entities that are involved in this survey under the name of Genesis 2 LLC and Genesis 3 LLC. Basically, Ron has a purchase agreement on the Lot 2 of this survey, and obviously we got to go through the platting process to create the parcel. And then this is actually out in the 2-mile jurisdiction out in the county, so we'll be going through the county process, obviously, here for your review as well. And then, and obviously it's been submitted to the city zoning, and basically when the Swiss Valley exit interchange was created out there, North Cascade got rerouted in front of this with specific driveway locations. On the east side of this lot 2, we're providing future rural access to the back side of this property. They would share the frontage on that road. And then basically reconfiguring the two entities that it kind of straddles the line between to allow for this sale. So that's basically where we're at. This property does have city water. It's on its own septic system because it's rural. Kind of goes back to that whole Vernon Water acquisition years back. So,
Right, thanks.
if you have any
Dave.
other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions for Dave? All right, thanks. Thank you. The staff report.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair Russell. So as the applicant articulated, the property that is in under review right now is located in the county. So it is within our 2-mile extraterritorial jurisdiction. The city does have the authority to review subdivision plats within those 2 miles of the city limits. And as such, this plat is before you. The applicant, as Mr. Schneider articulated, they are looking to reconfigure essentially these two existing lots in order to create a third lot here, which would essentially put this business on its own lot. So this colored image here does identify what the 3 lots would look like. It does also identify where that existing North Cascade right-of-way easement is located, and then also that the applicant is proposing an access and utility easement for a future street. This is before the commission because they are creating more than 3 lots, and there is an easement for a future private or public road. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that the commission may have.
Any questions for staff? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the plat as submitted.
Second?
All right, there's a motion and a second.
Froistad,
Aye.
Lorman, Norton,
Aye.
Zakaro,
Aye.
Christ,
Aye.
Russell.
Aye. The motion carries 6-0. When would that go to?
February, thank you, Vice Chair Russell. The February 16th City Council meeting will be when that goes, along with all the other items on tonight's agenda.
All right, thank you. And Pat, you're recusing yourself for this next?
From the next item, yes, please.
Okay. The next item is a simple subdivision on Adair Street. The applicant is Parker Scott. Is Mr. Scott here or a representative? Please come to the microphone.
All right. Yep, Parker Scott, 2455 Woodlawn Street. So I'm pursuing a simple subdivision of the lot at 1425 Adair Street. And the proposed subdivision would decrease the square footage of the lot that the current house resides on to less than 5,000 square feet. So the request is for that to be allowed. And the subdivision's purpose is for infill construction of a single-family home on Lot 1.
Any questions for the applicant? Right. Thank you. Staff report?
System planner Jason Duba. As the applicant indicated, the goal is to create 2 lots out of 1. Lot 2 would contain the existing home, and in addition to having a slight deficiency in the area, it has a slight deficiency in the lot frontage. So the area requirement is 5,000 square feet for a single-family home lot in the R1 district, and the frontage requirement is 50 feet. So the proposed area is 4,424 square feet, and the proposed street frontage is 44.37 feet. So both of those are only slightly less than the requirement, and the existing home would remain compliant with other bulk regulations such as setbacks. Lot 1, which is proposed to have a new single-family home, is compliant with bulk regulations, lot area, street frontage, and the development of that would also meet setbacks as we will see in time. Thank you.
Any questions for staff on this item?
Is one reason for the larger lot needing to be along Loris that it's an end lot? Or maybe because of the geography of the
Yeah,
lot?
so we have some pictures here of this area, and it's a pretty steep hill. So I'm speculating, but I think you're correct that the larger lot is on the steeper part of the hill and needs a little more room for a home to fit in there.
And we could certainly bring the applicant back up if you'd like further conversation about that, Commissioner Lorman.
You okay with the response, or do you want to ask the applicant?
Not sure. We can. Okay.
Yeah, so there is a significant grade coming down from Loris into the lot, which would, the larger lot for that new construction build would allow for ample space for the building. And then additionally, there's a 20-foot setback from both Adair Street and Loris Street because it's a corner lot. So having the larger lot size in Lot 1, again, enables more space for ample construction.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
I'll make a motion, we approve the final, or the plat survey of Adair Place at 1425 Adair Street.
Second.
Lorman,
Aye.
Zucchero,
Aye.
Christ,
Aye.
Froistad,
Aye.
Russell.
Aye. All right, that motion carries, and then we'll go to the February 16th council meeting. The next item is a simple subdivision. The applicant is Dan Marty, and the address is 13069 North Cascade Road, and the final plat of Hirsch Place, second edition. Is the applicant here to make a presentation?
My name's Dan Marty, Origin Design, 137 Dubuque, Iowa. I'm here before you on behalf of Mr. Hirsch, Kevin Hirsch. He is wanting to take his parcel in the county and subdivide it into two pieces. The front piece with the two buildings there going to his sister, and then he is going to create a flag lot with that remainder piece, and that will be his parcel.
Any questions for the applicant? Right, staff report, please. Thank you.
Assistant Planner Travis Strobelgen. So as the applicant stated, they're looking to subdivide a single lot into two lots. The single lot is kind of that reverse C shape, which includes both the green and the purple. And that is being subdivided, obviously, to the green and the purple, Lot 1 and Lot 2 of Hirsch Place Second Edition. The purple flag lot only has 32.46 or 48 of frontage where 50 is required. So they're looking for a waiver from that lot frontage requirement for Lot 1. Lot 2 is in substantial compliance with the Unified Development Code. There is an access easement which benefits Lot 1 of Hirsch Place, which is in white in the center, and also for Lot 2 of Hirsch Place, which is being created with this. They'd have that easement, it's noted on the right side there, but that is already documented and recorded. And that is all I have, unless you have questions.
Any questions for staff?
Is this a situation of like homes being built behind a home with a shared driveway?
So not currently. So one thing I forgot to mention is this is in the county. So this is within 2 miles. It's not under our direct supervision as far as developing on the lot, but it is for platting the parcel. If this were in the city, then it would have to go to the zoning board of adjustment for being further than 50 feet from the front property line. But that's not the case here. Just the platting is being reviewed today.
All right, any other questions? I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the final plat of Hirsch Place Number 2 Edition.
I'll second.
Do we have to have the waiver in there?
Yeah, if we may just amend that, and I apologize, I didn't catch this in the last one either, just subject to waiving the lot frontage for Lot 2 of Hirsch Place,
Yes.
just to clarify. Thank you. Yep.
Okay. Norton,
Aye.
Zucchero,
Aye.
Christ,
Aye.
Froistad,
Aye.
Lorman,
Aye.
Russell.
Aye. All right, now it'll also go to the February 16th city council meeting. Next are the public hearings. The first one is a rezoning in the Wagon Wheel and Rustic Lane area. The proposal is to rezone from R1, single-family residential, to R2, two-family residential. Would the applicant please come forward?
Mr. Chair, I'm going to recuse myself from this one as well.
All right, thanks, Pat.
Good evening. My name is Brian Renneker, 2300 Stonebrook Lane, Eldridge, Iowa.
I'm part of the development team of Rustic Point Estates subdivision. As you're aware, we're looking to rezone some R1 lots to R2 to allow construction of some high-quality townhomes. A little background on Rustic Point is there are 75 lots total. 57 are R1 and 19 are R2. We currently have 22 R1 lots remaining for sale and 0 R2 lots. In fact, as a side note, there are 0 R2 lots available in the entire city of Dubuque for sale. So needless to say, we were approached by people that have built townhouses within our subdivision, inquiring about the possibility of us rezoning some lots to allow for additional townhouse construction. So that's what I'm doing here tonight, just looking into the feasibility of adding a few more townhome lots. We have identified 7 lots, but to be honest, I don't foresee us taking on a project of that magnitude. Reason being is, if zoning repasses, we would then have to look into the required infrastructure improvements, most notably being laterals off of the main sewer and water lines. This isn't a cheap endeavor, and we cannot get accurate quotes on this until we, explore further with engineering and able to get quotes from contractors and so forth after, doing that kind of due diligence. So ultimately, I'm just trying to go about this in chronological order as to not waste people's time and ultimately determine if this is financially feasible. The restrictive covenants would be unchanged, and we feel that this would be consistent with the existing character and housing mix already present within the development. Be happy to answer any questions if you guys had any.
Do any commission members have questions for the applicant?
So what on the map is, oh, sorry.
And Carrie, I'm so sorry, Commissioner Lerman, if you could just be sure to speak into the mic. I think there are some folks that are just there's a really loud fan tonight for some reason, so
Okay.
please, thank you.
So can you point out on the map, like, what's R1 now and would be going to R2? What's on the map is R2 is already R2?
That's correct. The ones highlighted in, outlined in green are the ones that we're looking to explore. The
Okay.
ones in red are the 19 existing R2 lots.
Okay.
All right, is there anyone from the public who'd like to make comments in favor or against the proposal? Please step to the microphone, state your name and address, and let us know what your thoughts are.
My name is Gary Yeager. I live on the cul-de-sac there on Wagon Wheel Lane. Yes, right there. We purchased, you can't hear me? We purchased, sorry about that. My wife and I, Sherry, purchased the property 3 years ago. The concern I have is, with my background, I was a realtor for 10 years with American Realtor, and I was American Realty, and I was a real estate loan manager at Dutrack for 20-some years, and I did review appraisals over the years. My concern is, and I understand, I empathize with Brian and the developers. They did a great job with the properties there. Things are probably slower than it should be, and part of it is, the reason is the mortgage rates, which I think will improve this coming year. I foresee it improving. Part of the issue too is, to the left there are the properties that were foreclosed just not that long ago. And there's probably about 15 units there that are on the market too. So it'll be rather tough for them. But the thing that concerns me is when we went to build on that property, we were under the impression of what was going to be what as far as the properties. Now it's being changed quite a bit. The park area there is going to be what they're proposing by the park. I don't know if you can see where the park is at down in the valley there. It's going to be side-by-side units, two housing in each one of those units. It somewhat takes away from what the park was intended for. We were hoping that it would be somewhat of a diverse community, not just retired people, and having side-by-side units is typically more for families without children. And just recently, up three lots up from us, a young family is going to be building. They have 2 children, and yeah, right there, that's correct. Now all of a sudden there's going to be side-by-side units there. I think that would be a little discouraging when you have young children. I think they would prefer to have families with children. That's just my impression. And I don't want to hurt his situation there, but I think my feeling is I think it needs a little bit more time for them. I'm not saying no to this move, but I think it'd be wise to have it, see what happens this coming year. Hopefully, with interest rates improving, maybe there will be more development. The biggest problem out there right now, and this from my experience in the lending world and appraisal world, a lot of people would like to make a move in that area, but they don't want to give up 2.5%, 3.5% mortgage rates that they currently have right now. And, you know, they would be going into something like this right now, it's around 6%. So, you know, that has really hurt the market quite a bit. But I think the fact that rates should be coming down into the 5% range, somewhere in the 5% range, we're going to see more activity. I'm hoping that's the case. I am retired now. But I'm just looking at it from the fact that it's not really the area we were foreseeing in the future. And I'm not saying this is going to be very derogatory toward the area, but I'm just having some concerns.
All right, thank you.
My name's Mark Link, and I have property along there too on Wagon Wheel. And my main concern is going from R1 to R2 is that is a very narrow road. And even with cars being parked on it, you can barely get past the car right now. And the more vehicles that get on there, the harder it is going to be to even drive on Wagon Wheel to get past. I mean, right now when they push snow, they have to push it up over top the curb to get it off the road so you can drive through and not be stopped with snow. And that's my main concern of there, is adding more people, it'll be more vehicles, and it'll be rougher to get around. So that's my concern, so.
All right,
Thank
you. Anyone else on this item? Would the applicant like to make any rebuttals or additional points?
I don't really have any rebuttals. I guess I would just say thanks for coming and sharing your opinions. I actually, last week, went around to all the properties that I felt were affected by this, and I didn't stop down at the Jaegers household because I didn't really see much of an impact on it, so I apologize for that. Part of the reason why we were kind of looking at like 75 and 76 up there is I think they're right. Most of these townhomes do have older people, you know, kind of retirement living and/or maybe single parents, stuff like that. But for the most part, most of them are older people, and that backs up to Kennedy Road. And so getting a young family in there, I grew up across the street on Kennedy Road, and I just, you know, to me, not worrying so much about kids in the backyard playing there is why I guess we were looking at that. It also kind of provides a little bit of a barrier into the subdivision, but completely understand. To be honest, I don't like the idea of changing. People have made big investments out there already, you know, but I'm trying to just be a good partner of, well, the city, the people that have built, and, you know, other developers of the subdivision. So again, this for me is just kind of more exploratory, just doing it in chronological order. Part of that is definitely getting feedback from the people that live out there and trying to accommodate. You can't make everyone happy, but you certainly can, make an effort to please the majority, right? And that would be our intent. But yeah, like I said, we don't foresee all 7 anyway. It's probably realistically if we were able to find 2 or 3, because again, the expenses that are going to be undertook just to make it happen, aren't that feasible, in my opinion, on the surface currently. So I think that's all I would say, unless you guys have any further questions.
Any further questions for the applicant?
If additional laterals and water services are put in, are they just going to be put in like per lot with the developer? I mean, with someone buying it then?
Oh, no, we would have to, as developers, we'd be responsible for that construction. And that's what I'm talking about is we'd have to tear up sections of the street to add that extra lateral.
But you'd be putting in all of these at one time or just as they are going to be built, if the duplexes will go on them?
With mobilization of the equipment that you need to do something like this, you can't.
Yeah, you do it all at one time.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We have a staff report?
Yes, Vice Chair Russell, thank you. I am going to pull up a PowerPoint for this item. Bear with me while I grab that. Maybe. All right, so a few of these slides might be a little bit redundant with what we've already heard this evening, but I'm still going to go through them. So as we are seeing, this is a request to rezone 7 lots within the Rustic Point Estates subdivision from R1 to R2. And as we saw in the images earlier, just to recap, the lots here outlined in the checkered black and white there are the lots that we're referring to. I do have a image that we saw a little earlier that does identify where the R1 and the R2 are currently in the subdivision. But essentially anything in this yellow, this kind of light yellow shading down to here is all R1 currently. And then these kind of peach, pinkish tones here, if you can see those, hopefully, are where the R2 zoning districts are currently. And there was mention made to the Vintage Estates portion of this kind of larger subdivision, which is in this kind of checkered line. This is a single-family residential subdivision area. It was rezoned and platted separately, was previously a kind of co-op, and then now has been subdivided into individual single-family lots, which has been before the commission in the last year here. So that's just the lay of the land. The other properties that we're seeing to the north and the east, those are all part of county. So that's not in the city currently, which is why you're not seeing a zoning district designation over those lots. However, as you can see, these are essentially mostly single-family properties all along Clay Hill and Rupp Hollow, as well as Kennedy Road here. So this is just an overview of the properties that were notified with any rezoning request. We do have to notify all property owners within 200 feet of the subject property that is being rezoned. So if there were perhaps neighbors in the neighborhood that didn't get a public notice, this is very likely why. We don't get to pick that 200-foot radius. That is what's outlined in our code. We stick to that very strictly. So this map just identifies all the lots here outlined in yellow are the ones that were sent public notification based on that radius requirement. So a few things about the property. So this was, the property was previously in the county. In 2017, there was an annexation that took place. At that time, there was the first phase of the Rustic Point subdivision that came in. It was rezoned from agricultural land at the time to R1 and R2 lots. And then in 2021, the phase 2 moved forward with the platting and they finished that. And that was also zoned a mixture of R1 and R2. And I can certainly kind of show you where those boundaries were if you'd like to dig into that. But essentially just identifying that R1 and R2 were zoning districts that were contemplated when this subdivision was originally developed. So again, 7 lots, as I mentioned, 5 along Rustic Point and 2 along Wagon Wheel are part of this request today. And I did walk through this a little bit as well, but city and county zoning around these properties, and then largely residential uses in proximity. to this. And I did want to talk a little bit about traffic patterns. Kennedy Road there is classified as a minor arterial. That does see an average of 3,680 average annual daily trips. That's a mouthful. That's based on traffic data that we receive from the DOT, as well as our engineering department. And then the Derby Grange Road is classified as a local street, 1,550 average annual daily trips. These traffic counts are based on 2021 counts, so it is possible that there could be more at that time. All this to say that what we're contemplating today is the potential for 14 additional units or residential structures on these properties. So if we take the 7 lots, subdivide them, it would essentially be 7 additional units, 14 total on the properties. That is not a number that is anticipated based off traffic data and studies to have a substantial impact. The infrastructure in the community, in the subdivision, is certainly improved to be able to handle additional traffic from 7 additional units in the neighborhood. So this is just a side-by-side chart of our R1 zoning district and our R2 zoning district. This is a list of the permitted uses. So for all of our zoning districts, we have permitted, we have accessory uses, we also have conditional uses. But this is really just to articulate what the difference would be between the 2 zoning districts. And so the 2 that you're seeing on the lower right there that are not highlighted, those are the development types that would be allowed in an R2 zoning district that are not allowed in single family. R1, so that would be a townhome, maximum of 2 dwellings, or a 2-family duplex, essentially. Very similar styles of development, those 2. We have received questions in the past about, whether these would be rentals or those, if it could be a rental unit or things of that nature. Just to articulate, the city doesn't necessarily regulate whether it's a co-op ownership or an owner rented or a rental unit. Those would be managed by the property owner. Oftentimes there are HOAs that may restrict that sort of thing, but the city here, we wouldn't get into the regulations of that, just as an FYI for everyone. So again, this is just a bigger overview of the existing zoning. And again, you can see a little better where those R2 lots are currently down along the south, and then again, coming up along Wagon Wheel currently. Let me just see here. So one thing that I wanted to highlight in my presentation tonight, and this is just kind of I tried to zoom in a little bit to show you the 5 lots here along Rustic Point, as well as the 2 lots along Wagon Wheel. So these are fairly large lots in the city of Dubuque for single family, meaning that the R1 zoning district does establish a minimum lot size, minimum lot frontage. We call those bulk regulations for residential, for lot development. In this instance, a number of these lots, all except 2, in fact, are wide enough and large enough that they could be subdivided down in half currently. So if a property owner wanted a smaller lot, they could potentially do that with a number of these. That would be just a simple subdivision. 2 of the lots actually have right around 96 and 98 feet of linear street frontage. And so those lots would require a waiver, much like the waiver we saw earlier for Adair Street. So that is just something to note as far as the lot size in these areas. The other thing that I want to note that is something that unique that's come about in the last year, post-development of this subdivision, is that the state of Iowa did pass legislation that allows for an accessory dwelling unit on a property by right. When there is a single family residence, right? So accessory is what that would be called to a single family residence. And so in the past, the city would have required a conditional use permit for an accessory dwelling unit. However, that state law has now preempted us. So what could essentially be constructed here would be a single family home with an accessory dwelling unit. If the lots were subdivided for just traditional single family development, those properties also could be permitted to have an accessory dwelling unit by right, provided they are meeting certain development criteria. But that is kind of essentially, that state law has essentially downzoned the R1 district and allowed for a higher density in the R1 district. Whereas when, the property was originally subdivided, that was likely not contemplated. So that's just something to note as far as density of development and potential for that in the subdivision itself. And so I wanted to note that just regarding density. I also want to note that we have received some public opposition. So in addition to what we heard this evening, we have received a letter of opposition from Brian and Lori Lewis, who are at 4402 Sickle Lane. Also, as well as from, and excuse me if I pronounce this incorrectly, but Christoph Polowski and Beta Bill at 4416 Sickle Lane, as well as from Jennifer Winkleman, who is at 4424 Rustic Point Lane. And I do have a map here just showing where those properties outlined in orange here are in relation to the requested lots that are being rezoned. The commission has received a copy of all of those letters. And then also just prior to, as we got started this evening, there was a letter submitted from Greg Adams, who, as I believe is a representative of the applicant team rather, providing additional information regarding why they feel this request is of importance. So I can give the commission a moment to look over that letter if you haven't had a chance to do so. But with that, I don't have anything further, but I am certainly happy to answer any questions that the commission may have.
Do we have any questions for the staff?
I'm just going to restate something that Sheena said, right, for the benefit of the people in the listening and the ones who commented. She said that because of the state law, there's not really such a thing as an R1 being different from an R2 now. So they don't even need to rezone this to R2 to put two houses on the lots.
Yeah, and if I could just clarify a little further, you brought up a great point that I failed to mention. So yes, it does allow for more density. So a single family residence with an accessory dwelling unit would be slightly different from a duplex or a townhome, in that duplexes and townhomes are generally subdivided. They're generally maybe sold separately. We talked earlier, the applicant mentioned the requirement to have separate utilities. So sanitary and sewer and water would be required to be separate to those units for if they wish to subdivide, unlike an accessory dwelling unit where that could potentially be connected to the primary residence's water and utilities. So that is kind of a distinguishing factor in that they could be, again, subdivided. But when it comes to the density, the potential for additional density is there even in some regard with single family. That's really what I was trying to articulate.
But they would also have to come up to the city standards to add that accessory building, right?
So an accessory dwelling unit would need to meet the state law requirements, yes. And it would need to still meet building code. It would still need to adhere to certain setbacks. So yes, those development standards would need to be met. And if they were not being met, they could potentially go to our zoning board of adjustment to request relief or exception from those requirements. But yes, there are still development regulations that would.
You can't just say, I bought this and I'm going to add this and do it.
Yeah,
You
and I
have
guess
to still.
Right, and I guess when I say by right, I mean that if they are adhering to those development standards, then there's not a requirement to go through a zoning review. They would still need to obtain a building permit. They would still need to get a permit for any construction. So yes, that's an important articulation there.
Okay.
All right, any discussion? Did we close the public hearing?
I believe we did, yes.
Sorry, public hearing's closed. Any discussion amongst the commission?
I'm going to say that there are already a lot of R2 lots in this area. And it looks like the one on the northwest side, that's PR, or what is it?
Planned residential,
Yes.
correct?
Yeah, that's planned residential, yep.
Those are single family lots, but they look smaller and closer together, like very similar to the R2s, the neighboring R2s.
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
I would, if the applicant's amendable to it, I would suggest that we ask them to leave the lots along Rustic Point as R1. And since there's townhomes up along Wagon Wheel, we'll go ahead and rezone the two lots up on Wagon Wheel. But I think the lots on Rustic Point are all single-family homes in that area, and with the opposition from the neighbors that are already single-family homes there, I would be more comfortable leaving those single-family and approving the 2 lots that are up on Wagon Wheel as a compromise.
So what do we do? Do we invite the owner back or the applicant back up, or do we
Yeah.
just make a motion? And
So Vice Chair Russell, I mean, you can certainly talk amongst the commission to see if there's consensus on that sentiment. And if so, then there's certainly an opportunity for you to have a conversation with the applicant.
Okay.
And then staff would be happy to advise you as to how that motion could move forward if that's the way the commission feels is appropriate.
All right. Anybody else like that idea?
Well, I'd say that a lot of times when I hear public opposition, I sway on the side of that. But in this case, I don't necessarily. I mean, I've lived in a different part of the country, so maybe I don't understand why duplexes are just popular with senior people, because I lived in them with kids, like in a whole neighborhood, and I absolutely loved it. I mean, it seems like once you get the park in there and more people, I don't know, they will come. I'm not necessarily opposed to approving it as submitted.
Any other comments?
I agree. So growing up, I lived in a duplex. My parents and like you mentioned, Sheena, the lot size are large.
All right.
So I am fine with the way it stands.
I agree as well. I think changing it to R2 just expands the opportunities. Doesn't necessarily mean they're all going to be duplexes. Is that correct? It just opens the opportunities.
All right.
And I too, I lived with my wife and 3 kids in a townhome, and we loved it. So hopefully you get some families in there.
And even with the rezoning that's being requested, the developer still isn't even sure what they're going to do.
Would somebody like to make a motion?
Mr. Chair, I motion to approve as submitted.
Second?
Any more discussion by the commission? Hearing none, let's see, call the roll.
Christ,
No.
Froistad,
Aye.
Lorman,
I
Zucchero,
Aye.
Russell.
Aye. Motion carried 4-1 with 1 abstention. Right.
February 16th at City Council, and there is another public hearing opportunity at the City Council level.
Thank you. The next item is another rezoning. This one is at 1090 Radford Road. The applicant's Luke Hoffman. The proposal is to rezone a portion of the property from commercial service and wholesale to agricultural zoning district. Would Mr. Hoffman be here to make a presentation?
Mr. Hoffman is with us online, I believe. Let me just take a sidestep here to confirm that.
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Yeah, this is Luke Hoffman, 1070 Radford Road. I'm on about half of Kelhoff Properties. Yeah, so what we're looking to do here is approximately 15 acres on that commercial lot. Majority of that lot, the vast majority actually, is in some version of a floodplain or flood zone. So it's not buildable in any capacity, not any capacity, but very limited capacity, put it that way. And access is also kind of an issue. So what we're looking to do is basically take the 11 acres to the east and turn that into agricultural and leave the buildings that are currently there in the commercial service. And the intent is really to just allow us to have somewhat of a homestead and hobby farm, some basic livestock just for personal use, no commercialized use or anything like that. So, and majority of that land is, like I said, in the floodplain. So we feel like that's the highest and best use for that land. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions? Is there anybody in the public that would like to address this item? All right, hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and ask for a staff report.
Assistant Planner Jason Duba. In addition to what the applicant noted, this property is significantly downhill from the properties to the south, which are zoned C3, but contain a mix of residential and commercial properties. So the impact to those neighbors should be very minimal. And to the north, there's railroad tracks and the Dubuque Industrial Center West. So those properties should not experience impact due to this change either. The CS zoning district allows for 38 principal permitted uses, whereas the ag zoning district just allows for 3 principal permitted uses. So in some ways, this is restricting the possibility for this lot, though, as the applicant indicated, most of this area is in a floodplain and the ability to build on it is significantly limited. That's all I have. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Were there any letters in support or opposition to this?
No comments, no public input.
All right, any discussion by the commission?
Though the CS zoning district has 38 permitted uses, is farming one of them?
No.
Okay. Just the sales, the agricultural sales.
Yeah, just agricultural supply sales, but not farming.
Thank you.
All right, any other discussion? I'd entertain a motion then.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to rezone the portion of the property from CS to Ag at 1090 Radford Road.
Second?
Frostad?
Aye.
Lorman?
Aye.
Norton?
Aye.
Zucchero?
Aye.
Christ?
Aye.
Russell?
Aye. So that item will also move on
Correct.
to February 16th. The last public hearing is a PUD amendment proposed for the Cafaro Company at 555 John F. Kennedy Road. They want to amend the conceptual plan and signage regulations for the Kennedy Mall PUD. Is the applicant here to make a presentation?
Indy Copper, 5577 Youngstown Warren Road, Niles, Ohio, 44446. I'm a leasing director for the Cafaro Company. In fact, I used to be responsible for the Kennedy Mall and always enjoyed coming to Dubuque and felt welcomed. Very excited for the future of the mall as we continue our redevelopment of Unit 700, the former Yonkers unit, and additional tenant coming to the northeast portion of the property. In all, we will be adding 3 new tenants to the mall, and that's the reason why we're amending the PUD. First tenant I would like to talk about, Fresenius Medical Care, projected to open first quarter of 2026. They provide kidney dialysis services. They have 2,600 locations across the country, and they service 190,000 patients, over 190,000 patients across the country. Another addition in the 700 box would be Marshalls, which is a part of the TJX companies, which was also Home Goods, which opened up at the mall last year. They've done so well that they would like to bring another concept to the area. Marshalls offers men's, women's, and children's apparel, which is a missing item at the mall that we need more of. They will also offer some toys and also some home goods. The next tenant, and this would be in the northeast portion of the mall, 7 Brew Coffee. This is one of the fastest and growing coffee drive-through throughout the country. They have over 600 locations across the country and 8 locations in Iowa currently. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Justin.
So my name is Justin Somerville. I'm a senior civil engineer for the Cafaro Company, and I just wanted to explain the other thing that he didn't mention, which is the new intersection off of Stoneman Road. Because of all these new developments, we felt that it's needed here because there's going to be a lot more traffic on the north side of the mall. So I just have a couple of reasons why we think it's pretty important that it's here. Obviously, the first one is there's going to be a lot more traffic generated on the north side with all the new developments over there, and also on the north side of Stoneman Road, there's a lot more. There's currently a lot more access drives on that side. Right now, there's only one on the south side, which is our side, and then there's at least six on the north side. So we think that the traffic circulation overall will be improved with this access point. Third reason is that the drive aisle, the interior along the north side of the mall, where the Marshalls is, there's going to be a truck dock, so it'll kind of push traffic out towards the north, kind of out onto the outer ring road. And then if you're going to keep going and try to exit onto Stoneman Road, you kind of have like that U-turn movement. So we think it'll be a lot better if we have this second access point here, because they'll be able to just go straight onto Stoneman Road. And then that brings me to the fourth point, which is we think this will take some traffic off of Wacker Drive there, and kind of if people want to turn from the complex and go northbound on JFK, we think that'll kind of decrease the traffic on Wacker. And then the fifth reason, obviously we need to update the concept plan here as a part of the approvals for Seven Brew. For their site plan approvals. So if this doesn't pass, if you guys decline this, the Seven Brew is not going to go here, and that corner of that mall is probably going to remain dormant. So obviously it's a good thing we're here. We think it's economic activity. The mall's growing. So with that, if you guys have any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer them for you guys.
Where's the Seven Brew going?
It's right there. Yeah, it's on the bottom right-hand side of the screen there.
Just
where all
across from DB&T or Bank or whatever it is.
Yes, right.
UMB.
Yep, right across. Yep.
Okay.
And then the next slide is it's just an aerial, and then that red circle is where that access point is going to be.
Would the access point be something that we would review at all?
So the commission's being asked to review the improvements, the changes and modifications to the conceptual plan in the PUD. And Travis will go into this more, but we have gone through site plan review for these specific developments, Seven Brew, the access, as well as changes and modifications around Marshalls and the dialysis center. And I'll let Travis elaborate on that too, but those have gone through and will require site plan approval.
Does the proposed access line up with something across the street?
It doesn't necessarily directly. It is close, but it is being reviewed by the engineering department. No major red flags. Those are limited developments, of course. But it is a requirement of a site plan of the intersection to get the PUD concept plan amended. So in that regard, you are reviewing it, but you are not reviewing the specifics of the development.
So if the engineering department and the applicant talked more and maybe moved it one way or the other, we wouldn't really care per se.
As a commission,
Yeah.
you would still review it because it's a significant change to the planned unit development to the mall. So the conceptual development plan is what we're amending here, along with some signage, but
Yeah.
I can get into my staff report
Yeah.
if you.
Yeah, and to that point, if it modifies slightly, then that would be something that we would have the ability to say, is this modification in substantial compliance with the approved conceptual plan?
Okay,
So-
sorry. Anything else to add before we close the public hearing?
No, I wish we could have the intersection right across, and obviously we'll work with traffic engineering and come to some kind of agreement. But just the way the existing drive aisles are, I think it'd be pretty significant to try to line it up with the bank across the street. So, yeah, that's about it.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
We're going to close the public
Now I'm gonna
hearing.
Open the public hearing.
Oh, does anybody in the audience want to talk about this? No? Okay, now I'm going to close the public hearing. Staff report?
Yes, sir. Assistant Planner Travis Shrubelgen. So the applicants are requesting two things here. One is to them amend the conceptual development plan, which is down a page or two right there, Exhibit A. And in the staff report, I have an image showing the current conceptual plan. And just below that is the proposed one. So as you can see, this is the approved current plan. It doesn't show some of those more less substantial changes, but it also doesn't show an access on Stoneman Road. So because of that intersection with Stoneman Road, that is considered a substantial change. And because it's a substantial change, the conceptual plan is triggered to be updated. If you want to go down to the updated one, please. So right there, we have the less substantial changes, alterations circled. Every development within the mall PUD, as with any commercial property in the city of Dubuque, requires development review to one level or another. And so these have all started that process or completed that process. As part of the 7 Brews, as the applicant said, they need an access on Stoneman, and also for better trip generation, or not trip generation, but traffic flow. It is seen as beneficial from a staff perspective. That intersection, as well as all those other developments and any development to come afterward, do go through the development review team. Whether it's simple, minor, or a major site plan. Each of those has different levels of review, but all of the city staff departments do look at all of those. The other portion of this request is to add under canopy signage to the PUD. Currently, the PUD does not list them as a permitted sign. And that's an example of an under canopy sign there. So the applicants are requesting to add that as a permitted sign within the PUD. They would be limited to 6 square feet in area. They're required to be at least 8 feet of clearance below each sign, and then it's 1 per frontage. And that is for those interior lots around the mall. And that is all I have unless you have questions.
So I'm going to switch to the sign. Is that for the coffee place?
I don't know the specific sign that's being proposed for. It could be many signs, but it would just allow them under the canopy around the mall structure, this principal mall structure.
The new Marshalls is requesting that sign type.
Right.
Thanks, Jason.
Marshalls, the new Marshalls. And then also I will just add that is consistent, and correct me if I'm incorrect here, Jason, with the under canopy sign allowances in the C3 zoning district. Correct? Could you elaborate on that maybe?
Yeah, 6 square feet is typical. 8 square feet of 8 feet of clearance is necessary for safety.
Yeah. Plaza 20 has those around.
Yes.
Plaza 20 has them.
Correct. Plaza 20 does, yeah.
It is actually the same language as Plaza 20.
All right, let's see. Do we get any letters in support?
There's been no public input one way or the other, and we did notify everybody within the PUD, all the ownership, as well as 200 feet outside of it.
I will note that I did just field 1 phone call, but it was primarily just interest, not of any concern.
Okay. Any discussion by the commission?
The signage and the additional access point makes sense to me, but I think you brought up a great point as far as lining it up across. And I'm not saying that it needs to be, but hopefully they take into account just what kind of traffic pattern they create there.
Yeah, traffic engineers absolutely will be looking into that. Yep.
But I'm in favor of both.
I entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to amend the existing PUD to modify the concept plan for the new developments proposed
And to allow for the additional signage.
and to allow for the additional signage.
Thank you.
Is there a
I'll
second?
second that.
All right, roll call?
Zucchero,
Aye.
Christ,
Aye.
Forstad,
Aye.
Lorman,
Aye.
Norton,
Aye.
Russell.
Aye. Motion carries. See you on February 16th.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
I will just say, if we're continuing through the agenda, if
Yes.
there's any items from the
Any
commission.
items from the public?
Thank you.
Any items from the commission? Any items from staff?
I'll just mention one briefly, and that's that we are continuing to work on our Unified Development Code update. We're doing, as we mentioned a couple months ago, we're still going through this kind of initial review. It's really about structure, layout, how things flow throughout the document. And so it's been time consuming, but we're certainly really digging into that. And then that will be something that we will be proceeding to bring before this commission. You'll be seeing that in this coming spring, and we're hoping to hopefully have it all done by summer. But just FYI, that's still forthcoming. So that's all I have.
All right.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Full move.
Second?
All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
We're
Thank you.
adjourned. Thank you.